gold shields and identification fully prominently displayed on their chests, driving in a government vehicle with government license plates after they attempted to execute a parole warrant. They were surrounded by white police, one lieutenant and two sergeants from the town of Ramapo Police Department and the village of Suffern Police Department, with their guns drawn and assault rifles pointed at them, and they were assaulted. Their constitutional and civil rights were violated. They were held in custody. They were ordered out of their vehicle. They were ordered to keep their hands up in the air, and no justification for this violent stop at gunpoint ever existed, nor was ever given to them. These fine officers were forcibly held in custody while a lieutenant, and I will identify individually the officers of the town of Ramapo and village of Suffern, who we are announcing a lawsuit against, who committed this atrocious act at gunpoint. The first officer, who was the officer in charge, is Lieutenant Rob Lancia, Lancia, of the town of Ramapo Police Department. He is the one who exited his SUV, stopped the government-driven parole vehicle driven by my clients at gunpoint, pointed his gun at the driver, which is Officer Mario Alexandre, and then ordered other police officers in uniform in radio motor patrols to surround the New York State Patrol vehicle at gunpoint, pointing their guns at my clients. Fearful of their lives, my clients remained in their vehicle with their hands up in the air as they were ordered to exit the vehicle. Also, this Lieutenant Rob Lancia directed a uniformed officer to stand at the rear of the parole vehicle with an assault rifle pointed straight at my clients, ready to fire, in ready position. The other police officers that surrounded their government vehicle all had their guns out and drawn at my clients. There can be no justification for this occurring in the 21st century. And we have today written demanding an investigation by the New York State Attorney General and the Justice Department and the head of the Civil Rights Division of the United States Attorney's Office. We have many people here who are supporting us and who will be supporting us in the future in the lawsuit that we are filing. We are today filing claims against the town of Ramapo, their police chief, who is responsible because he never investigated what occurred back on April 21st, 2014 to my clients. And his name is Chief Peter Brower. Captain Brad Wydell admitted on the news that he never conducted an investigation of the actions of his Lieutenant Rob Lancia and Sergeant Margaret Samarone of his department, Officer John Pialucci, also who at gunpoint held my clients at their car unjustifiably. We are also serving a claim on the village of Suffern Police Chief Juan Osborne and his Sergeant Edward Dolan, who held his gun to my clients, threatened their lives, threatened to place them under arrest. In these times when some people think because we have an African-American president, we are in a post-racist America, there are events like these that still occur that have to wake us up to the fallacy of the idea that there is racial equality. Racism is real and alive in Rockland County and throughout Westchester, and it affects minorities, even who are officers of the law. These clients of mine being veteran parole officers, as I said, for over 20 years. They were held under arrest, they were falsely imprisoned in custody, they were fully closed in law enforcement uniforms with their identifications prominently displayed on their chests. During this, I must say, an officer of the town of Ramapo Police Department went up to this Lieutenant Rob Lancia and identified Mario Alexandre as a parole officer that he had worked with for many years. And despite the fact that this Lieutenant Lancia was told early on that Officer Mario Alexandre and the other 3 veteran officers with him are parole officers, they continue to hold my clients, Samuel Washington, SHEILA PENISTER, Annette Thomas, and Officer Alexandre in custody at gunpoint. There can be no justification for this. Racial equality is not negotiable in Rockland County or anywhere else in America, and racial profiling is unacceptable. I am here to send a loud message out to Rockland County and their attorneys, the town of Ramapo and the village of Suffern, that we are commencing this lawsuit. We will hold you accountable. We will see that justice is done for our clients so that this can never happen, not only to any other minority law enforcement officer, but if they think they could get away with this, as they have up until today, since no investigation has been had and none of these officers has been held accountable or suspended, let alone terminated, then we will bring justice to them. Thank you. At this point, I will introduce the followers who have come here and who will be fighting with us into the future to get justice for our clients. First and foremost is Chairman Charles Phillips, Chairman of the Grand Council of Guardians, representing approximately 20,000 African-American and Latino civil service workers throughout New York State, and I am proud to say that I am his attorney for the Grand Council of Guardians.
In today's time and era, it is truly sad to realize that racial profiles still exist. And the most saddening part about it, it was profiled against law enforcement, black law enforcement. So the question comes up now is, when does it stop? The issue is now is that one day these four officers who were members of mine were doing their work, just doing their work. And out of nowhere, we had police officers from Ramapo literally attacked them like if they were terrorists with assault weapons. You're talking about a group of white officers who literally put them at posts like if they just had bombs or they was falsifying IDs, which they had their ID and information displayed. When does it stop? I mean, when does the racism stop? When do people start looking at everyone as fairly? And when do you start treating the officers, regardless of what color you may be, as officers? It's truly sad. It's been shown over the time and over the history where we had large numbers of black officers who have been shot, who have been forcibly arrested, who've been attacked. I mean, even by some of their own members who work right beside them. So this right here is no more than another example of how blacks are being treated here, and particularly here in New York, and upstate is even worse. That's basically what it comes down to. So that's the reason why we are standing here today, to make sure our voices are being heard and say we are not going to stand for this anymore longer. If you do this to us again, we will take you to court, and we will take you to court and deal with you in the courts the right way, because this must come to an end. We must bring full attention to this, because if it doesn't stop, who's next? So that's the question now, who's next? And the saddest thing about it, just picture what happens to the regular civilian who walks the street, who don't have a badge or ID or a vest on to say that they're law enforcement. So if these individuals got this kind of treatment, just picture the level of treatment, the level of harassment, the level of disrespect our regular black citizens here, particularly up here in Westchester, Rockland, are being treated. It needs to be brought to attention and needs to be brought forward. That's the reason why we are here, and we're going to be with them to the end.
Thank you. At this point, it's my pleasure to introduce Damon K. Jones, Black Law Enforcement of America, New York representative, who has been fighting for justice here in Westchester County and attempting to fight throughout the state of New York, Damon K. Jones.
Good afternoon. My name is Damon K. Jones. I'm the New York representative of Blacks and Law Enforcement in America. And I also bring greetings to all officers from Ron Hampton, our Washington, D.C. representative. And as Benita says, we have been asking local elected officials, especially elected officials that are in the counties, Westchester, Rockland, Nassau County, Suffolk County, that they have to create some type of oversight in law enforcement to investigate these type of incidents. And we also have to look into most of these police departments outside of New York, or even New York, they're all white. And if they do have black police officers, it's just a trickle up. So what we're saying, in order for us to feel safe, because if we are dressed like this and we're scared on our lives, and I can relate, my wife is a detective in Mount Vernon, and every time she goes out in civilian clothes, I wonder if she's going to come home safe, if she's not going to be looked at as a criminal, because that's what happens. Because if you were a white person, and studies have shown, if you're a white person and you're dressed like this, or you are in plain clothes, you're already assumed to be law enforcement if you have a weapon. But if you're black, you're assumed to be a criminal. These type of images must change, not only in the community, but within our own departments. Because just like Charles said, there are officers being shot, and killed by their own counterparts, by their own white counterparts. But you'll never hear that in the reverse. It never happens when a black uniformed officer mistaking a white officer as a criminal or as a thug. See, and these are the institutionalized racism within law enforcement. Now, how do we get more young people, more African Americans to take the test, to be part of this institution, when they see black officers now being treated the way they are, and there's no repercussions, and there's no pushback from the elected officials or the community leaders to make these things change. So we're going to stand with them all the way to the end. And we're asking local officials that they have to do something, especially north of the city. The city now has the inspector general. We need something in the counties north of New York City so we can address these situations and change them, because, you know, how many more lives are we going to lose of black officers with mistaken identity? We can't do it anymore. It has to stop, and it's going to stop. Thank you.
Now each of my clients would like to just say a word. So I would ask first Parole Officer SHEILA PENISTER to come forward.
My name is Parole Officer SHEILA PENISTER. I've been a parole officer for over 20 years. On April the 21st of this year, I honestly believe my life was going to end. I was in fear of my life by other officers. In 20 years working in the Bronx in the worst neighborhoods, working in Rockland in some of the worst areas, I have never feared for my life as I had feared on the 21st of April.
And now Officer Annette Thomas.
Good afternoon. My name is Parole Officer Annette Thomas. On April 21st, I was also subjected to the horrible experience of being, I feel, racially profiled. I've also worked in the Bronx for over 20 years, and I've never encountered any type of behavior, inappropriate behavior, as I did that day. I was fearful for myself and my partners. I was humiliated and demoralized.
Now we have Officer Mario ALEXANDRE.
Good afternoon. My name is Mario ALEXANDRE. I'm also a New York State Parole Officer. This assault at gunpoint that occurred on the 21st of April upon myself and my fellow officers is not only an attack upon my life and my integrity as a law enforcement officer, but a nightmare and a betrayal that I could never have imagined. Nothing will stop me and my colleague joining here today from rising to the challenge this injustice. Together to ensure that those responsible will be held accountable, we will stop at nothing for justice. Thank you.
And now Officer Samuel Washington.
Yes, hello, my name is Parole Officer Samuel Washington. And on the 21st of April of this year, we were all stopped by Ramapo police officers and by Suffern police. And when we were stopped, we complied with all of the commands that were given to us. However, even after we were positively identified as parole officers by our shields, by our IDs, and also directly by one of their own police officers, we were still held at gunpoint and threatened to be handcuffed if we moved or if we spoke. Throughout the process, I feared for my life and for the life of my fellow officers, and I questioned why this continued to escalate when they knew that we were parole officers. I too would like to see justice brought to us in this instance, because it's just a shame that in this day and time we as black officers are subject to this type of treatment. Thank you.
At this time, we have Homer Whittington, who is the former president and current financial secretary of the Federation of African-American Civil Service Organizations.
Thank you, Benita. My name is Homer Whittington, and I'm a retired parole officer. I respect the work that our parole officers do. We have to work in the most dangerous neighborhoods in plain clothes, and being African-American, working in some of the Westchester and Rockland County homes and neighborhoods, we are constantly approached by the police. So we have been trained, we have great training at parole. They tell us to follow the commands of the uniformed officers, and I'm sure if our parole officers had not followed their commands or resisted or even turned their head slightly to the right or to the left, they may have been killed at the scene there. So the Federation of African-American Civil Service Organizations is here to support the parole officers here. Thank you.
Now we have Wayne Spence, Vice President of the Public Employees Federation and a member of officers of the 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement. Thank you.
Two of the officers here today, Officer PENISTER and Officer Thomas, came on the job together with myself. We came in 1993. The job of parole officer is a job that's thankless. It doesn't require you to wear a uniform. The way we're dressed now is how we're dressed, but usually not in a suit. Usually we try to blend in with the community. At times it might call for a hoodie, at times it might call for jeans. But we always have identification. We know as African-American law enforcement officers, and we're trained in the academy, that you will be confronted from time to time by uniformed law enforcement. But in my 22 years, never have I ever heard or have I ever experienced, when being confronted by law enforcement, that after positive identification has been made, that it escalates. It can lead me to no other conclusion, based on information I heard, that there was animus. This has to stop. If it does not stop, someone will get hurt. It is by the grace of God that these officers are standing here today. It is the training that was instilled in us back in 1993 that has kept us here today. We've got excellent training, but that does not excuse the actions by Ramapo police and the others who assisted them. This is inexcusable. This has to stop. If this does not stop and the public does not demand some answers, then it could be worse, and it will be worse. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Spence. We also have Grant Valentine, retired parole officer, former assistant deputy director of parole.
Thank you, Benita. Good afternoon. My heart is real heavy today to hear what's happening to these parole officers. I've worked with these parole officers, I've trained parole officers. This is unconscionable what took place. The very thought of what took place, I just can't imagine. And I pray for these parole officers to have the strength, the perseverance to see this all the way through. And I applaud the Guardians for championed this cause. The human rights and civil rights have been violated by this police department in Rockland County. You know, when you think about what they've done, that police department, how they victimize these parole officers, what that means to the general citizenship in Rockland County, it's unimaginable that they've done these things that also violate what we sacredly hold as parole officers, as officers in general, police officers, state police officers, probation officers. The safety of all officers is paramount what we do and how we train. It's also the general welfare of the general public. They put all this at risk by their behavior and conduct. So shame on you, Ramapo Police Department. Shame on you. What you did was not ordinary police policies and what you did. They were not the standards that we follow. They were not. What you actually did was you acted as a social club, as a gang, with your own rules, your own codes, actually black codes, the way you handled this.
That's right.
And that was wrong. That was wrong. And I applaud the Guardians for taking charge of this and moving this forward and correcting this behavior. Because what they did was actually abuse of police powers. Shame on you, Ramapo. Shame on you.
We also have famous civil rights attorney King Downing, who lectures all over the country on racial profiling. Where are you? Please step up.
My name is King Downing, and I am an attorney, former national coordinator for the Campaign Against Racial Profiling of the American Civil Liberties Union. I have an organization called the Human Rights Racial Justice Center now. But I'm here speaking on behalf of the community. You see around you, you see a group of very dignified people in the way that they're speaking about this issue, the way they're dealing with it. But I have to tell you this, I'm past being dignified. I'm upset and I'm mad that this has happened. And there are three reasons why. The first reason is that if this is what's going to happen to the sworn police officers by other fellow officers, what problems do you think that everyday people like me in the community face when they deal with these same officers? So we're seeing this problem stacked up on two levels. So the first issue is what is happening to the officers by the treatment of their others, and the second is what does this say for the community? And the third is that we have to do something about this. And I've been doing this work for years and years, and I'm going to bookend the kind of treatment that officers have received. The first one, anybody remember Aaron Campbell, Miami-Dade? Worked back on that case in 1998. He was pulled over because his SUV fit a drug dealer's profile, whatever that was. Those charges were dismissed. And then move up to Nassau County. Dolores Campbell, last year, pulled over for the same reason. And a shopping center officer says, your car is blocking my surveillance. So he disrespects her when she goes in the store. When she comes out the store, she gets disrespected again and then gets taken downtown. So that's what's happened on the official side, officer to officer. In the community, I don't even have to tell you. I've looked at reports from half of the states, from 60 cities, and everywhere we go, racial profile, excessive use of force, over and over again in the community, whether people are in uniform or out of uniform. So we're now at the point, as Stokely Carmichael said, who was the founder of SNCC, the time has passed for description. The time is now for prescription. So are we going to talk about this, or are we going to do something about it?